Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Jessica or Jess with us today. So, welcome.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me on here.
Yeah, no, thank you for being here. Like I said before we came live, is this is my favorite part is to get a little snippet, a little pink peek into your universe and learn a little bit about you. So, what is it the journey and story that led you to what you're passionate about today?
Mm. Wow. Well, we'll go back all the way to 2019, was when I was in a really bad depression. So I had left my corporate career, was chasing the fitness career, and I wasn't exactly where I thought I should be after like a year and a half of really wanting to be in fitness. I was making kombucha and just teaching fitness part-time, and the depression just hit me so hard that I didn't want to be here anymore. And my son was 17 at the time. So I knew I had to figure it out because it's just like, I need to do this for him. And sound healing actually came into my life, which, if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's alchemy crystal bowls, one of the most powerful vibrational frequencies in the world. I went to a meditation and I knew within that meditation that something had shifted. So my Friday nights at the bar turned into Friday nights going to sound baths and sitting by a river. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. And I ended up getting out of the depression. And that was September of 2019. So it was like right before the world shut down, right? Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, yay, I'm figuring it out. And like, oh shit.
Yeah, exactly. And I ended up getting the fitness job that I wanted in February. And then the gym shut down the next month. So I was just like, what is going on? Like everything that I wanted, everything that I was like leaving this cozy corporate career for has been like taken away from me. But I started listening to like the messages and where I needed to go. So I started working on coaching certificates, like Integrative Institute of Nutrition was my first one. So helping people with like diet and energy and the food and products in their home, stuff like that. Which then moved into me coaching online a little bit and a bit in person. Um, and then selling my house in the middle of the pandemic was what ended up happening. Because by this point, my son is 19, and I'm like, well, he's old enough to move out. So I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to live in a van for a little bit. And then I got the hit to go and live in Costa Rica for 7 months. And then I came home because I missed him a lot. That's the longest we've ever been apart. So I was like, I need to figure this out at home. And then really dove into my coaching career. So, helping people with depression, being disconnected with themselves, being stuck, not knowing where to go, and just really getting an outsider's perspective and view on where things need to shift and change so that you can start living that life of fulfillment and integrity and just abundance and love and all that stuff. So,
Well, there's something you mentioned in there that you kind of skimmed over that I'd like to go deeper into. And
okay.
that's you said that you started listening, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so what does that mean to you and how does that look?
It started in my corporate career. My business is around spirituality. So God is something that a relationship that I needed to fix personally in my own life. And that's just because of stuff that happened in my childhood. And healing that trauma has definitely been value for my own life and my own business. But when I was in my corporate job, like God, spirit, universe, to me, it's all the same thing.
Right.
And I started seeing 1111 all the time. I was downtown Calgary seeing eagles eating garbage. And I was just like, what is going on? Like something is speaking to me. So yeah, and then just kept getting messages like you need to leave your corporate career. And when I was introduced to the bulls, it was like you need to get your own bulls. I was like, I can't play the bowls. Like, what are these messages? What is happening? You have to sell your house. I'm like, where am I going to go? Like, what do you mean I have to sell my house? You have to go back to Canada now. What? Okay, I'm going to go back to Canada and just like continuously listening. Like, even where I live, most of my friends are in a different city in this Calgary area. So it was like I wanted to move there and it was like, no, you have to be in Okotoks. Listening to that led me to moving on to this beautiful acreage. Like it's just I started really paying attention and being like, hey, I haven't been led wrong so far. So I'm going to keep listening to these hits. Like that intuition is what some people might call it. Like, you should turn left, but then you turn right. And then you ended up in the wrong place because you didn't listen to that hit. And I just started trusting them and really listening to them. And it's led me down a really beautiful path.
That's so beautiful. And can I ask, like in your early life, were you aware of this inner voice, this inner guidance, and you didn't listen to it?
hmm Yeah, I was really tuned in as a kid. So much so that my mom would bring her friends over who were pregnant, and I would guess their baby, and I was right every single time.
Wow.
And yeah, and they'd be like, "How do you know that?" And I'd be like, "The baby told me," right? Uh, but then I had my son at such a young age. I was 16 when I was pregnant and 17 when I had him. So I was a really
Wow.
young, yeah. And I lost it for a bit because I was so focused on like making sure that he survived and was provided for and had the life I didn't have. So all of that energy that I did have, because I'd always been tapped in and like known something bigger was out there, but I definitely focused on mom and raising him. And I was by myself raising him as well. I didn't have support from his dad. So I really focused on that. And he's such a talented human and he's got so much wisdom that I call him my little guru because sometimes he says things and I'm like, where do you even come up with this stuff? And it's like, well, look at his mom, right? It's like I gave those gifts to him by putting them on pause for me. And now that he's like 23, we get to really come together. And when I want to brainstorm on stuff, like he's the one I'll go to for those conversations at like a higher level.
Isn't that I mean, I didn't have my son at 16 or 17, um, but that spiritual connection that you have with them, and it's for me, it's like they get to stand on your shoulders.
Yeah.
By you doing the work, you said, clearly you had to do work to clear out whatever traumas you had in your younger life to be able to step into where you are now.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gone into a lot of the darkness and a lot of my own shadows and faced them so that I can also help other people go there too, because we all have trauma. Like, I don't know if you know Gabor Mate's stuff at all.
Mm-mm.
Uh, Fabulous, fabulous human with so much information, like big T traumas and little T traumas. Like, sure, there's like the big ones. But then there's also like you didn't get that toy that you wanted. You really wanted your mom to give you a hug that day and she didn't. Like those things still, it's little, but it still impacts our body and it stays in there somewhere. Like that day that you needed that hug so bad for your mom, she was too busy because dinner's burning, your dad had a bad day at work, and like that affects you. So I had to go there first and deal with my own and work on my own and love myself that much more so that I can help others do the same thing in their life.
That's so beautiful. Now you mentioned several times about fitness and whatnot, but it sounds like there's much more to it than just that.
Oh, 100%. When I was the most fit that I was the most depressed that I ever was. Like
Oh,
I was
interesting.
right? Like I was eating properly. I was working out like 5 or 6 times a week. Like my body was in the best shape that it's ever been. And I had the job that I really wanted. I owned a house. My son was doing great at school. And I was so depressed because I was so disconnected from myself. I was so busy. Like, no, I got to work out and I got to make sure that I go to work and I got to make sure that my son's okay. And I wasn't taking that time to connect with myself, which is now something that's incorporated in a daily routine for me and has been since 2017. But there was still something missing. And that's why the depression came in 2019, because I was still in that corporate job. I was still like, you're not doing your purpose. You're not allowed to be seen still. Like you're sitting at a desk all day. There's something so much bigger. Like you need to get out of this. So the messages came in huge.
Well, and I would imagine, I mean, I love, love, love your story because I think you're telling the same story of hundreds of thousands of other women around the world. How did you have the courage and to make that transition from the corporate job into your purpose?
That was terrifying. Not gonna lie. Like it's still, even now, like thinking I left my corporate career for like just a knowing, like making that big leap and honestly not knowing, but it was like, hey, I don't have a lot of debt. My son's in grade 11 and he has a job. So like if anything does happen, like I know in my heart and soul I can make this work. And again, having that trust in yourself, like it's like an inner knowing of no, like you're meant for more. There's bigger things out there. Your message needs to be shared. Everybody's got a story that will inspire other women, other people. And once you start sharing it, you get to watch. So within that inner knowing, me doing it in front of a bunch of people has also inspired other people as well. And even selling my house, that was huge because it's like, where are you going to live? You don't actually have a job anymore. Entrepreneurs, it's really hard to buy a house. Like you're giving up your security. I was like, I don't know, but I'm gonna make it work. It's been almost 4 years and I'm still here. I'm still alive, you know? Like I don't own a property anymore, but I live on a beautiful acreage outside in the country. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, like giving all that up for just that inner knowing, like something bigger is calling and trusting. Trusting is like the biggest thing. Because if you don't trust yourself and the decisions that you're making, then we got to change that. We got to fix that, right? And that takes
Right. Or
time.
the second guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of courage. Kudos to you for doing it so much sooner than I did. um, it, it does, but you said something. You have this level of knowing and trust. It's like you don't need to know how anymore.
Yeah.
You just know that you trust your guidance,
Hmm. Things
and
have
so
worked. Yeah.
it is. It's hard to explain until you do it, right?
It's like explaining skydiving to someone that's never skydove, right? It's like you can't explain that feeling and like that freedom and that joy and just like I am invincible right now until you hit the ground and then you're like back to reality. But yeah, just learning to trust yourself. And most of us don't because we're so disconnected, right?
Right, and it's not your fault. Um,
No.
it's a collective consciousness.
Yeah.
Um, and now that I've interviewed almost 200 women around the world, it's global. It's it's the collective consciousness of this earth. And so what I really love and appreciate about you is, you're a trailblazer that is willing to go out there and do it scared, but do it just the same so that you can pave the path for other women that will have support in their process of doing it. And what a gift you are for that, that you were willing to step out first.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. It's, they say they learn by the challenges, but I'm sorry. I love when there's a kindred spirit and somebody that's on their path. It just makes my heart sing. It's like, yes, there's another one.
Doing the hard things and showing you what's possible, right? Like that's the goal.
Right. And tuning and it's so critical that all your answers are inside. not out there, not
Yeah.
needing outside approval.
Yeah.
Because
And
I'm
we're,
sure your friends thought you were nuts.
yeah. What is she doing now? Yeah. But
You're
I was,
selling your house and going to Costa Rica? Really?
yeah. And I don't know for how long. I bought a one-way ticket. I was like, I don't know when I'm coming back. Like, it was just, I'm going. And then those messages came through again, like, you have to go home now. And I was just like, okay, fine.
But you listened, but you listened. And you
Yeah.
became a new person in the process.
And still am like throughout like, I'm not the same person I was yesterday either. Right. And I
Right.
continue to the spaces that can hold that space for me so that I can be better at my job, so that I can, like, I'm a firm believer within the facilitators, the coaches, like whoever you're working with, they have to have been there first. Like they have to have gone through the trenches. Like, are you going to learn how to paint from somebody that's never painted before?
Right.
Probably not. Are you going to learn to cook from somebody who's going to show you how to cook craft dinner? Probably not. But when you find those, like any spiritual facilitator, coach, like therapist, I think it's very important to know, like, what is their story? What did they have to go through? Have they gone into themselves at that depth and that level that they know themselves and are able to show you the way versus like, yeah, I took a course, now come work with me. It's like, no, like go there first. You have to go there first. And I've known, like, the reason I see that is because of who I've worked with. Because I've worked with people who haven't gone there first and I get nowhere. But then I work with people who have gone there first and I'm like, oh, this is the difference. And you can tell.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, with all that being said, tell us a little bit about your services and what you're passionate about today.
Oh my goodness, I love getting people out of their comfort zone. Go figure, hey? Yeah, my main goal is to empower, like I work with a lot of women right now. I have a couple of male clients, but to empower people to become the version of themselves that they can see and they can feel and they know is in them, and to quiet down that saboteur that like continuously says you're not enough, you can't do it. Like those stories that we learned back in childhood that are on repeat in our head, and you're not even the one that said it, but it's in there and it's looping. So what I do is I go in within my coaching practice and I really help people change the narrative and change the story. And I give them homework and I give them tasks that help them really embody who they actually are versus these repeat stories. And it takes time. It's just like a workout. You can't go to the gym once and you're fit. So it is like, it's very similar. You get to do it over and over and over again daily. And if it's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years of this narrative that's been going on, it's going to take time to switch it, but we can. The goal is like we can.
And so, how can people get in touch with you?
My website is Mindful Body Experience, and then Jess Meister on Facebook and Jess underscore Mindful Body Experience on Instagram. My website's probably the best because then I'll get emails, or Instagram as well, because then it's like a direct message type of thing. And yeah, I'm here to empower as many people as I can and just raise up the vibration of the planet.
I appreciate that. And I love your message so much. And we're going to be sure to put her contact information above this interview and down in the comments. Or if you want to get in touch with her, comment down below and just say, yes, I want to talk to Jess. I can't thank you enough for being on the journey that you're on and saying yes to this interview so that we can get to know you and others can get to know you. Any parting words of wisdom before we go today?
Love yourself enough to know that you're worth the journey inward.
That's big.
Mhm.
It really is. And it is. I mean, both of us on the other side of it can tell you hands down, it is so worth it.
Mhm.
Well,
100.
I can't thank you enough for being with us today.
Thank you so
And
much.
And thank you so much. And like I said, we'll be sure to put her information so you can get in touch with Jess if you resonate with her message. If you want to just have a chat with her and talk more, reach out to her. As she said, her website's the best place to get a hold of her. And again, Jess, thank you so much for being part of this group.
Thank you so much for having me on today, Jenny.